Friday, February 2nd, spring apparently is coming early, according to Punxsutawney Phil and all the other affiliated uh, groundhogs around the country. So that's good news. And we have already had a pre-chat about how it doesn't make any sense, but that's a whole other topic. That's not for Drake's professionals. We have an intimate group. We've got a number of people who are anticipating joining but couldn't make it on time or are going to be joining. So we will just kick it off from the start. And I wanted to welcome back Mark. Thank you. And Ethan has not been here in a while, is back, and Dan is becoming a regular, and Sherman is a permanent fixture. And that's it. So let's Mark, can I just hit you right off the top? You guys got your fingers on the pulse of what's happened. How did the any headlines of at the 23 wrap up?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've actually got some notes here I can reference, but overall, the industry was, pretty flat. Obviously, craft beers are down slightly. RTDs, I think we're up something like 47%. So, that's the exploding category that we see. Within the beer category, the winners were imports, and particularly Mexican imports. Modelo, Constellation. And there are a few more coming out of that area, out of the southeast, that are going to be imports, but different countries are going to have some success in 24. We look as what it looks like from East Central America.
Really?
The other winner was cider. Cider was up slightly, so it was good news for the cider folks. Premiums sort of remained pretty much flat. The Anheuser-Busch Bud Light situation caused some issues for their volume. Miller and Coors both picked up a lot of that in the premium category. And then below premiums, we're really doing well. And malt liquors, the last category would be malt liquors, we're up slightly. From a retail standpoint, we see big changes going to happen in these spring sets. And if they're not already happening, we're going to see some probably, I think retailers are going to have a lot of SKU reduction. I think they're going to look at their coolers and say, we've got to make sense of this, and we've got to use this more effectively, and they've got to get more money out of those coolers, out of that cooler space. So you're going to see
get money on the ones that are turning over as opposed to the ones that are sitting there.
Yeah, exactly. Probably more space to the winners, and eliminate, packages that aren't hitting a particular hurdle rate, something like that. So
I would be curious to know whether Bud Light regains a little bit because of the visibility, or at least maybe this is me noticing this, but that famous shot of Jason Kelce at when the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's in, the one where Tony Romo called him the brother-in-law, and he's pounding a Bud Light. My first thought was that's got to be product placement. They've got to have figured out a way to get Bud Light in his hand in that shot. And I think, and I saw like another one, somebody else purposely drinking a Bud Light, a celebrity. So I'm curious, and it was, these are athletes. So I'm just, be curious, because that was probably one of the most noticed little shots from that game anyway.
I'm sure. And the fact that it was, Taylor Swift's booth and all that. I mean, it's, I don't know if that was on purpose or not, but it was certainly, some good marketing for them. You're going to see, I think they have upped their spending for the Super Bowl. So you'll see some presence and probably dominance by them in the Super Bowl. You've probably already seen they did a Peyton Manning commercial. You got Peyton in a bar throwing beers out to everybody. Him and the Dallas running back.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Well, let's see if it makes a dent. But Ryan, welcome. we have an intimate gathering, so we just started with Mark giving us kind of a state of the state.
State of the state.
State of the state, yes.
Mark,
Uh,
I'm curious.
Mark called it Taylor's booth.
Taylor's booth.
Not at all to be the family, but Taylor's.
Yeah,
Taylor's booth.
yeah.
If I could ask a quick question, Mark, I'm curious when you're explaining the increases to the different sectors, is that increase of the share of total sales or increase to sales in general, or what combination of both?
What I gave you was dollars. Yeah, that was in dollars figures. So in dollar figures, they were up, what I say, 42% or something like that.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Share, the biggest, share shifts were again from the RTDs. Let me look for a number here for wine. I will tell you that let's see. We did a study by division, and since this is an intimate group, maybe I'll send Bump's newsletter out to you guys so you can take a look at it. We usually charge, but since you're my friends and you're here with me today, we'll maybe send it out to you.
Very kind. See, another reason to participate.
Yes, it's
A promo.
get something for a change, right?
Yeah.
But we did it by different regions of the country, and it was interesting how it looks like the Northeast fared about the best in most categories, and then of course how some categories were struggling across the country. So rather than break that all out for you, I'll probably just go ahead and send that. High Noon's the champ, in that category. Huge success there. We're watching for, the Coca-Cola Red Tree to see, what's going to happen with that network. And of course, we're watching the Pepsi Blue Sky.
Are you seeing anything, any traction on 4-6's brand? They have a whole line of RTDs and tequila-based drinks, and they say they're in 38 states and they're going to be in 50 states by May. Because I actually have their whole investor deck.
I'm going to have to pull another sheet because that would be a list as to where they would fall. I don't have that, and I'm sorry.
And they have beer, just to be on the lookout. They have beer too. They're doing beer.
Okay.
RTDs, and they're doing tequila-based ranch water.
Okay.
All right, they got a whole set. What's
Well, if they're in 38 states, they should be popping up.
that's what I'm saying. I mean,
Yeah.
And they're projecting to be in all 50. Molson Coors is in most states is their distribution partner. Their network. And I think I just remember in their map, but it was mostly Molson Coors, and then they had 5 or 6 markets that were independent in their plan.
I think the big thing for everybody is going to be, having their national account reps, having their sales reps working, with the chains, trying to hold on to any space they have in those coolers and not losing. And, if they are taken out, can they get on a warm shelf?
Right.
Can they get some displays? We're also seeing, I think Walmart announced that they're taking away their beer trains. They had, those big beer sections, sort of down the middle of the stores. And we were told that that's going to come completely out of the stores. That's going to go away. That space is going to go to other products. So huge display space coming out of Walmart. And whatever Walmart does, sometimes then other chains will follow their strategy. So I don't know what the display space is going to look like for the future, moving into 24. But that's a huge chunk of business, because distributors were able to make big drops of product, and they would just, most times they just left it on the pallet and just rolled it out into the middle of the floor there and worked right off the pallets. So labor was not intensive at all. It was easy, and They didn't have to send a merchandiser in. There was no cost to the distributor to send a merchandiser in or a salesman in to work it. It was basically boom, here it is. It's on a pallet. So be interesting to see. Be interesting to see.
Mark, did you already say what the stats were currently on RTDs?
Yeah, it's up, dollar wise was up like 42%. Through
Does that
January.
include 750 RTDs or just single serve?
That was just single serve RTDs. Yeah. Yeah.
And is there an average price point?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me, but I believe it was $12.99, I think was where the average was falling on a 6-pack. $12.99 to $13.99, I think. I'll check that for you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Of course.
Right.
Of course.
Welcome to
Good to see
Wendy.
you.
Ethan, what's new in your world? You can recap. I know, but they may not remember what you.
Sure. Yeah, long story short, we're a bulk provider across all categories of spirits. We also private label, and we're definitely riding the RTD wave in terms of supplying bulk products into a slew of RTD brands. Luckily, most of our clients are kind of past that threshold. They're
I
already
have some of your product back here. That's what I was thinking.
great. They're already north of like 35 or 40,000 cases. So we feel pretty good that they're going to stay around for at least a year. And that's mostly these RTDs that are supplying, agave based, tequila based, or whiskey based RTDs. And then I've kind of transitioned my hat almost squarely internationally. There's just a huge thirst for American liquid in bulk form. And so we're happily filling that void. Again, largely tequila products and whiskey products. We don't really deal with the white spirits much. Our technology doesn't really afford us any cost advantages in gin and vodka.
Where internationally? Is it India, Asia?
Right now, it's Eastern Europe and Asia. Those are the hot spots. We haven't touched India yet. We know that's the gold mine, and particularly in terms of whiskey, but we also know it's a gold mine filled with landmines inside of it. So we're treading carefully.
I was having a conversation recently with someone about that, and that you've got to really pay to play.
Yeah.
And you got to be willing to give up a huge chunk, a huge share in order to get it, but you can get volume.
Yeah, and the slotting fees, we come from a world here in the States where that doesn't really happen above board, but particularly in Asia, we do a lot of private label business, and the slotting fees just to show up on shelf are astronomical. But with the amount of people there that will purchase your product, it's worth it. But it's a pretty hefty downstroke to get in the game. Yeah.
Do you deal with with any of these accounts? It's all your produced bulk juice.
Yeah. All of our juice is produced out of Detroit. But then we've worked with the TTB a lot, so we can, we're coming out with statement of comps that are either Irish whiskey or Canadian whiskey or Japanese whiskey, all with the moniker, with natural flavors. That's our tagline. But
and that's getting thumbs up. But doesn't that have to be more approved by like Irish, or the country of origin?
Yep. So the only place we don't have any love with Scotch right now, but we have approval from Ireland, we have approval from Japan, we have approval from Mexico as well to do tequila with natural flavors. But in the Scotch category, that's a no-brainer. That's a hard no. So we're selling our clients malt, right? Malt whiskey, which internationally consumers understand malt whiskey is the same profile as a Scotch whiskey.
Right. You just can't call it Scotch.
Correct.
Interesting. Ernesto, I see you've joined us. Welcome.
Yes, good morning. Happy February.
Hello.
Happy February.
Yeah.
Do you want to give us a tequila headline? What's going on in your segment?
Well, I think the only news on our end is that the CRT put out a letter that regarding additive free certification of additive free. They're really going head to head with this tequila matchmaker, and they're not having it. They're not going to certify. They're not going to say what's additive free until the product goes through laboratory processes, and they named official or third parties. They're a third party, but a third party from them, as far as laboratories go, that if they say, if the brand goes to these labs and the labs say, okay, product is additive free, then the CRT will come on board and go ahead and give it the okay, but that they, as an entity, that they're not gonna be doing any additive free certifications or anything like that. That's a big thing right now, and it's affecting livelihoods, really.
So are there, I'm not as close to tequila, but have there been cases of additives that are proven to be harmful that are in, or is it?
No. It's not about being harmful or anything like that. It's there's a movement for transparency in the industry. So we bring out a tequila and we're there, and for example, we've got the Solo Sprinkler with this one behind me. That's additive free, and this last batch, our extra añejo came out lighter in color than our añejo. So if we were another brand, we would say, okay, we need to add some color. We need to add some oak essence, or if it's too bland or whatever. So they're called abocantes, which is allowed up to 1% of the batch. So the CRT says that's okay. But the movement that's going on is like, no, we want the CRT to say, well, this is 99%, and it does have the 1% of oak. It has the 1% of glycerin. It has the 1%, of whatever. They want that disclosure.
Right? With that level of detail.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not about being harmful or not. It's just this group of purists, you can say, they just want the CRT to say, well, if you're allowing the 1%, that's fine, but say 99% agave and 1% natural flavors, like what you were saying, natural flavors, or agave syrup, or just a color, or vanilla, or something like that. So they're really clashing with this. It's a small little group of people, but the CRTs, they're like, why are you doing that? And then there's brands that the brand itself says, well, I'm additive free. So on their labels, they'll put additive free. So this was like last half of last year. So the CRT was saying when they would go and certify product to leave the factory, they would say, oh, you have a statement on there that says additive free. We're not going to give you the certificates that it's to say that it's even tequila.
Wow.
Yeah. So they really push back on that. So there's a back and forth. There's people are saying that the CRT is like a monopoly.
Yep.
Right. And they're funded. If the more you produce, the more funds you give to the CRT. It's like they take like a 0.01% of your sales.
Yeah.
So if you're Cuervo, you're that little percentage you're giving them, I don't know, $10 million a year. And if you're a small brand like the brands that we have, okay, we're giving them maybe 5,000, 2,000. So they're gonna listen to whoever's got the most funding in the system. You know, and they're part of the board and stuff like that. So the big three tequila companies are the ones that are there. They try to be you know, fair and stuff like that, but people don't believe it or not believe it. So that's the big thing this week that happened.
Wow, that's interesting. That's, well, we'll have to keep, you'll keep us surprised on that, but, you know, I guess it's a lot more complicated than certified organic.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more complicated than certified organic because you can have organic additives. Right. And then that's also more complicated than certified kosher because, you know, a rabbi goes and they'll certify the process and the plants and everything and the barrels. And it's a one-time thing. They're there and they're certified. Okay, boom, you're done. You're done until next year. You know, you need to renew. They come out again. You know, pay them, and you know, you could put the symbol, right? But this certified or verified additive free, it would be like every batch. Which the CRT does that. They check every batch that we make of 100% agave, right? You know, because the mixtos are something completely different that you could ship in bulk and all this other good stuff. You know, 51% agave alcohol or sugars is the minimum. So the mixtos are okay, but the 100% agaves are where the big problem is. And that's where this little scuffle is going on.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Anyone have any other questions on tequila?
Yeah, so if I'm reading the lines correctly, when you're saying it's affecting livelihoods, producers of 100% agave who are trying to tout and are proud of the fact that it's additive free, they're not allowed to actually advertise that on the label. That's the problem, correct?
Correct. Now, according to the CRT, you're not allowed to advertise it on the label. And if you want the sticker of the Additive Free Alliance, you cannot add it at the distillery, or the CRT will not give you certification that it's tequila. Period. So they have to ship it out.
Yeah.
Right. Ship it out, get it here to the warehouse, whatever, and then open cases here and put that little sticker on there.
Yeah.
After the fact.
After the fact, right?
Yeah.
Which is kind of also kind of not really all that great,
Right.
because like us here at the warehouse, I've got 15 tequila brands,
Yeah.
right? 3 of them are additive free, because we know it's additive free. None of them have gone through the tequila matchmaker, so we don't have the stickers.
Yeah.
But if one of them went through the stickers and said, okay, you're additive free, you're great, we would order stickers, right? And I'm sure they would say, how many do you need? Oh, I need 10,000. So we'd get those stickers and we put them on the one that got certified and the one that we know that's not, but we put it on there anyway.
Right.
Because when our salespeople are out there selling, you know, we show up to a store and like, oh, okay, this is Strong Squinkler Tequila, and we mention additive free. They'll get their phone, get on the app. Oh, it's on there, but it doesn't say it. Oh no, but we got the sticker. If we have the sticker, right? Say, okay, cool, leave it, right? And there's retailers, quite a bit of retailers that it doesn't matter if we say it's additive free. If it's not on the list of the app, they won't take it as an additive free. They can take it as tequila. That's fine, but they won't put a lot of retailers are doing additive free sections now.
Space. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So it livelihood from tequila, from tequilerias, from factories, from importers like myself, distributors, brand owners, that we can not do a sale because our that particular brand is not on the app.
Yeah.
And the big thing of CRT is, okay, they're certifying or they're acknowledging or whatever additive free. They're not a lab.
They're
not a lab.
They're not a lab. How are they?
No, they're not a lab. No, it's just a group of people that they'll taste it, whatever. When they certify, they go to the distillery and they'll say, okay, is there? They'll look at the books.
Yeah.
They're nosy because they'll go through books and say, oh, you bought oak extract 6 months ago.
Mm,
So you don't qualify for additive free, even though they don't see it, but they look at the books and, oh, you bought glycerin.
Yeah.
You bought whatever
No.
they bought, right? Because they're looking at books.
How
And
can,
then they taste.
how can they not do just a lab test?
Well, the CRT does lab test. That's the whole point. That the CRT does do lab tests every time. Every batch, you tell them, okay, we're gonna ship out or pick up, 5, 10, 1 pallet, a case, whatever. The CRT needs to go to the distillery. The smaller distilleries, they need to show up. The bigger ones, they're there. They have somebody there all the time. And they'll tell me, okay, the CRT's coming tomorrow. They'll check it. They take bottles, take it to the lab, right? In our case, they take it to Guadalajara to the lab. And a day or two later, they'll send a certificate. I said, okay, we're certifying that this is tequila, and it's all the lab work is there. But the issue is that they're not checking for any avocantes because you're allowed the 1%.
Yeah.
So it's a non-issue for them.
That's wild. It'll be interesting to see what happens, in this category, because there's so much stuff being added to other category liquids, whether it's caramel color or any, and it.
Yeah, well, you could add caramel color to mixtos. You could
Right.
add agave syrup to mixtos. And to 100% actually, but what this alliance, these group of people, what they want is for the label to say with agave syrup,
Yeah.
with vanilla flavor, with essence, they just want it. They want to knock off that 100% that they want what's in the product to be agave, water, and yeast.
Yeah.
They want those to be the ingredients, nothing else.
Yeah.
Which is great. It's a purist thing, but it is affecting a lot of brands. I mean, if it affects me directly because none of the brands that we have, even though we have additive free, are on the app, are checked off on the app. They're on the app, but they don't have the little check mark that it's
Yeah.
part of the clan. So they're upset. The CRT is upset about that, and hopefully, I mean, they in that letter they put out yesterday or Wednesday, they put the labs. So what we're telling our suppliers and the brands that are ourselves, we're going to look for those labs and take product. Like our next bottling, we're going to take product to their lab, and let them do the additive free, and then I don't know, bring it to the CRT at the time when they are pulling to do our certificates for export. Say, okay, we got the certificate from the lab that you guys mentioned. You guys, CRT, give us something to say additive free for this batch. And we don't know what that looks like yet. We don't know if they're going to do certificates. We don't know if they're going to do, stickers, or if with us doing that, they'll allow us to put it on the label, just the words, just wording, additive free or something like that. We don't know. It is going to be very interesting to see how it works out moving forward.
I'm curious this thought. What are your thoughts on this call? The whole, how much of this is actually consumer driven in alcohol, whether it's additive free, non-GMO, natural wine, right? How much of it do you feel, what does the data say? How much of that's actually just a feel good versus consumers are actually driving those categories? I don't see it in my world as in terms of like material interest from consumer versus a feel good. But what are your thoughts?
I don't have the data on it. I don't have the data on it. But as far as I mean, I could give you a really good example right now. Everybody knows Fortaleza, right?
Yeah.
The Fortaleza. So they just came out with their 1550 Reposado. I think they did 10,000 bottles, something like that. They released it on Wednesday, only through siptequila.com. I think they're out of Florida. And they sold out in 3 hours.
Mhm.
You know, it's just so crazy. There's a frenzy just because it's additive free and because of this and because of that. And, you know, product is good. I've been to the distillery. I know the owner, everything. It's good, but it's just maybe it's like what you say, the feel good. You know, people all over my social media, Wednesday, Thursday, and probably today. I haven't been on, but it's I got my Fortaleza, I got my bottle, everybody and their grandmother are showing that they've got their limited edition,
Yeah.
right? And it's limited just because Guillermo doesn't want to make any more because
Right. But that's,
because he wants to have
that's
that
scarcity
match.
versus whether it's really because of the, no additives. I mean, it's kind of like in the bourbon space. I don't think consumers are as focused on whether something is made in Kentucky as the people who are creating brands who want to be able to say that this is from Kentucky. There's a big disconnect there because from a bulk standpoint, you must deal with this all the time. It's like, oh, I have to have, an origin statement and it has to be Kentucky.
Right.
And, but I'm like, the consumers really care?
Right.
What, does Widow Jane not move? That's not, it does, there's a whole host of brands that are not Kentucky, not to mention the fact that Jack Daniels is Tennessee, but that's a whole thing.
Right.
Right now that you mentioned Widow Jane, it's just off the top of my head. I don't know which brand it is, but there's a brand that's an additive free. It's part of the additive free alliance, and they just came out also with a Widow Jane version. I don't know if it's Cascaween or one of
The
those.
Widow Jane
And-
version of tequila.
I guess it's aged in in Widow Jane barrels. Yeah, and same thing. Their lots are small, 5,000, 6,000, 8,000, and they announce them like a month before it's coming. They post their unbarreling, their pictures, their bottling, the stuff like that, and it gets here and it's already sold. So it's something that's really, really big right now in the tequila industry.
Interesting. Anyone, Ryan, we haven't heard from Ryan, Dan, or Wendy. Anyone have any topics to throw into the
The
forum?
last few days have been with a rum distiller out of Tahiti, and it's Tahitian rum, and I'm not typically a huge rum fan. His rums are phenomenal, and they have a special type of pineapple that they grow in Tahiti that he's got a cognac rum, he's got a pineapple infused rum with their sweet pineapple. Unbelievable. And he was discussing how rum is on fire in Europe right now, like tequila is for us. So it'll be interesting to see if that is the next wave that comes through the US, or if they're going to go in a different direction, like the agave spirits, like we've talked about before, US based. So I'm interested to see where that goes. And then of course,
Are there specific, since these are flavored, are there specific cocktails that they are that they're showcased in, or is it simply just
neat.
neat? Okay.
And duty free is blowing through it in New Zealand and Australia, and he's got a couple staple products. He has 9 SKUs, but it was unbelievable, and it was nice to try some nice rums. I'm doing a collaboration with an artist and a private label project, so it was really nice to try some great rums, especially when you're sitting in front of the distiller as you're tasting them.
Yeah, you want to make them feel good about it.
Yeah, but it was great. All of his SKUs were great. So I'm excited about that, but I did not know about this rum craze happening in Europe. Anyone else hearing this?
I have not.
Okay.
I've not seen anything with it. Can you disclose what brand this is? Is it a brand that we would know? Or is it just they're launching?
And he's got several lines. It's all Tahitian rum. So Tahiti rum is the staple brand, but there's,
Oh, okay.
I mean, this SKU book is unreal. I can send you a deck on his products.
Interested, yeah.
Noah is one of his, but they're not in the US. So I doubt that anyone would have, he's just coming to the US, so that's why
Right,
he was
that's what they're just, right, so they're just, okay, they're entering
the
this.
last 2 days.
Got it.
Yeah. It turns out that it's cheaper to fly to Tahiti to get samples than it is to ship samples from Tahiti because of DHL and how they manage
Really?
things. Yeah, he said it's over $600 to send samples just in the mail to LA.
So you can fly there and then you just stick bottles in your suitcase.
You know it. When you see me on social next in Tahiti, you know why. I had to go pick up my mail.
Dan, what's new with you? What have you learned?
I'm curious. I got a suggestion from someone I work with to check out the ACSA, and I looked into that, and I'm planning on going to that convention in Denver. So if anybody,
By the way, I told you that I probably wasn't going, but I am going.
oh, you are?
Yeah, I ended up having a couple of meetings and I have
You
to.
found out I was going to be there, so you decided you'd make it anyway,
Well, I
right?
knew when you told me that you're an influencer. So, you know,
Well, my point, this will be my first event with ACSA. If anybody else will be there in person, we'd love to shake hands. And
when do you be there? So we'll see you in person.
okay, well, I'll see if I can coordinate a quick get together. That'd be nice.
Yes.
Other than that, in my world, the insurance world, not a lot of new stuff since last time I said anything. The distillers, warehouses, rickhouses, still suffering badly from a hardening property insurance market. And if you've got logistics companies, transportation companies, the auto market's really bad as well. But more so on the property side. So we're seeing rates kick up. If you or any folks you're dealing with are griping about their insurance renewals, that's probably the biggest piece of it. And there's some interesting opportunities to help combat that. That's all I really have to say.
Yeah, and so like in my world, insuring maturing barrels in warehouses is key for brands because it's an asset. It's an appreciating asset. And a lot of the warehouses, to learn more about this with Dan's help, a lot of the warehouses that are used for storing, aging, when you're paying the warehouse, we have the warehouse agreement, they offer you insurance as an add-on if you don't have your own insurance. But the coverage really is more about covering their ass in terms of the loss based on the cost versus the loss. Not all policies cover appreciation, although some of the warehouses, they actually do charge more for a little bit more coverage, but it's still not. I don't know if you want to explain how that works.
No, you're absolutely right. Most of the warehouse agreements I read are covering just negligence only. So you could have a few thousand barrels in a warehouse. There's a fire at that third-party warehouse, and then third-party company says, "Well, we didn't start the fire. We had sprinklers. We did everything in our power that could be considered reasonable to stop this from happening. We were not negligent. Therefore, our policy is not going to pay for your barrels." That's how the contracts are written. It's really scary. But to Michael's point, some of the larger, more reputable warehouses will have an option where you can take that, which is not even really coverage. It just looks like coverage, or you can pay more to have real coverage with the market value versus replacement cost. But it's cheaper to do it that way because you're not actually covering. It's a feel good. Someone said it earlier. It's feel good insurance coverage. Where to do it right, you just do it through your business insurance. You just need to know, the broker just needs to know what they're doing.
Yeah. So Wendy, all right. So Ryan, go ahead. You got something?
Speaking of insurance, I was just educated on the tax credit that's out there for 1099 contractors. So if anyone has them, they're allowing up to or a minimum of 10% of your earnings for 20 and 21 if you had COVID. So employers paid sick pay. 1099 contractors did not get any of that. So now they're allowing this so people can get up to 10% of their income back. It's 10 days a quarter max that they can claim they were sick with COVID, and then they can get a refund. So some of my team, they're getting, anywhere from $20,000 to $25,000
Wow.
refunded.
You're dealing with an army of 1099ers.
Oh, yeah.
As Sherman, I imagine you are too.
Yeah, Sherman, I'll send you an email on the details, but that's the link for
Thank
them.
you.
For them to, excuse me,
thank you.
I can't personally get this, so I didn't go through the full process, but I met with the
Right.
insurance company that's handling this. So there is a fee, but still, at the end of the day, if you make 60 grand, you're going to pay 2,000, but you're going to get 15,000 in return, so.
And
That's-
beyond
That's
this,
this
go ahead, Chairman.
whole insurance related thing. I was kind of curious, Dan, in that world, and Ryan, you probably speak to this as well. I found in an attempt to just get general liability coverage for contractors doing samplings in stores, I have not found anybody who represents the sweet spot of brand ambassadors who are just pouring a sample, but they're not bartenders.
Yeah.
They're not in a bar. I mean, I have found it fascinating that it is so complicated to find simple liability coverage
I just sent you
for
mine.
a brand ambassador. Yeah. Yeah.
I just sent you mine, Sherman. It's so
I'll
cheap.
check it out. I mean,
It's
that's
so
a,
cheap.
yeah, it's a
What
huge
insurance
company.
Is it, Ryan?
All right, good.
I'm curious. Ryan?
What?
I was wondering what insurance carrier is it? The company?
Hiscox, Hiscox.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, Hiscox. Liberty Mutual might be one to check in as well. I just worked on a marketing company that has a bunch of brand ambassadors, and they were with Liberty Mutual.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sherman, look at that.
And then Sherman, you
you
can
got
find,
it.
if you have
Yeah.
big events, you can just add an umbrella when you're actually serving full cocktails. And so that's what we've always done. Like, we do a party up at the Anheuser-Busch House every year, and we just put the umbrella on it.
Yeah. Yeah. Very good. Mike, I'll dive in.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by Mark's commentary every time because it so reflects what we see our client list emphasizing. We're seeing, of course, last year it was RTDs were our biggest sampling categories, two significant brands here in Tennessee. And then we're seeing a considerable hike this year in wine sampling, which is kind of a shock to me. Constellation is spending far more on the budgets around sampling wine, at least regionally in our area, than they did last year.
You think that's
And
that's because of
well, interesting.
declining appeal of wine to younger,
Mhm.
which is now the talk of the whole trade.
Yeah,
So
we're
invest more.
we're also sampling an RTD. Yeah, we started an RTD program for them this year as well, and it's a 750 RTD, Michael. I forget what the brand is, but
Is it Licks?
kind of interesting stuff.
Is it Licks?
Pardon?
Is it Licks?
I don't know.
LIKS?
No, it's not a mix. It's poured straight from the bottle. Yeah,
No, I'm saying it's an RTD. There
but
was
it's busy.
there was a brand that was called Lick Shot. We actually did some early work with them, and then Gallo bought them. And what they've done is they still have their little individual shots, which is what they were built on, but they do 750s, and that's what I've seen more of the
Yeah.
various cocktails, their Cosmos, their, you know.
Yeah, it's a good time. We've booked Ryan, I bet you're seeing the same thing. We booked 50% of last year's revenue by January 22nd of this year. So it is going to be gangbusters this year, no doubt about it.
And everyone's into sampling. That's a good thing. Good time to be in that space. Wow. Wendy, what else? What's going on with your world? And
We're plugging along. with our, we're doing less and less of our agave spirits, more and more of whiskey, vodka. I thought vodka was just gonna be more or less for our tasting room, and it's pretty popular, so we decided to do a gin along with it, which has also turned out pretty well. And now we just, I mean, we've just been trying to attract people to the distillery in Tempe. And then we hooked up with a company to do mail order. So we took our top 5 products and put that out for mail order. Got away from Speakeasy. Don't know if anybody's using them, but they were a disaster for us. They were very expensive and did not work out well. The marketing didn't work out well. So now we're just plugging along with this new company that we started with in the fall of last year. Seems to be working okay for now.
Which platform is it? Or is it? is it-
It's Whiskey Lovers.
Okay.
So we have our agave on their tequila site and our whiskey on their whiskey site.
What kind of volume are you doing?
About 10 cases a month. We're really small.
Uh-huh. But that's a start.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm fine with it because we get a lot of tourists in, a lot of
So then they go
snowbirds,
home and they can order it. Right.
and then they don't want to carry it back, or they've done
Right.
carry on, and yeah, so it works
Yeah,
out.
so as long as they have a route. Remember, I don't know if anyone remembers, but the folks from St. Augustine Distillery, you know, when we were talking to them last year, 2 years ago, you know, their whole business model is to get people into the distillery because it's such a tourist destination, and that then they come back and buy it online. You know, so they don't need to really have a big marketing plan, or as long as they're available in one place that they can direct them, they can get it.
Yeah, we have to work a little bit more on the marketing and the angle for it. I think to get people to order on site. I think we might we might be able to increase our sales that way rather than waiting for them to leave. I think we might be able to do some
Have a
type
little
of
kiosk.
incentive with that.
Have a little kiosk.
Yeah, exactly. iPad something so that they can
Right.
just order on site and offer some type of incentive for doing it.
Right.
So, but I mean, we're doing fine. I was really concerned for the end of last year. Things were slow at times of the year that typically aren't here. And at the end of the year, it was just a zoo, which was great. So we ended up finishing, you know, above our goals that we had set. So we were thrilled to death. Because I mean, small, we're happy with growth, hearing everybody, you know, Diageo 15% down, and so
Mhm.
many other brands hearing that they're about 10 to 15% down. So
Yeah.
not a whole lot outside of that. I do have a rum label. I know Ryan was talking about that. Our rum label is doing really well. And we were just approached by an investor to open a production facility in the Midwest. They really want to focus on the rum, which I thought was interesting, but I hadn't read anything about European sales being so big for rum. And from what I see, I don't think it's a big part of the market here. But the investor loves the brand, loves the label, so we'll see where that goes.
All right, well, good luck with that.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll see.
So they're investing in that label, or are they?
They want that label and one other, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, we'll see, you know how that goes. I mean, you talk to a lot of people about a lot of things, and most of it doesn't work out, so.
Yeah.
But we just met with them in person, so we'll see.
All right. Anything else, Sherman? Any other news that you have? You've always got news. No,
No, not now, other than
you survived.
just, you know, living life, you know. Spend all my time in spreadsheets.
Yeah. Yeah. I know the feeling. All right. Well, I think so. Let's see. So Dan and Wendy and I, so 3 of us from this group will be in Denver. I don't get in till Monday morning, and then I'm leaving Wednesday.
Same.
But I'm not like early, like midday Wednesday. But I do know that I have a dinner that hasn't been set yet for either Monday or Tuesday. So once that's set, we can maybe figure out if there's an opportunity to, you know, do that. I'm sure we'll see each other anyway.
Yeah.
But it's not a big show. We'll probably
Yeah, I'm
see
leaving
it
also on
15
Wednesday.
times before we,
I'm coming in late on Sunday and leaving on Wednesday also, right around mid-afternoon, dinner time-ish.
okay,
And I'll be with my partner as well.
Perfect.
all right.
Mike, I think Alec has some sort of speaking engagement there. So he's our CEO. So
Oh,
I'll connect you guys. Maybe you can shake a
that'd be
hand.
great.
No, that'd be awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
All right, well, Stephanie, let's see. Our next one is right after we come back.
Friday, March 1st.
Yeah, because this thing we're talking about is Sunday through Wednesday, right prior to.
Since
Is
it's,
anyone coming
since it's
in?
Groundhog Day, wouldn't it be tomorrow?
That's right. We're gonna do this all over again.
Is anyone coming in for the Super Bowl?
No. Are you going?
Oh, God, no. Did you see the nosebleeds are 12.5 a seat?
I did.
Oh,
Yes, insane money. Just
Well, actually, I saw them last week prior that they were $8,000, but they went up to 12.
Oh, yeah, you want to go? No, well, I don't know. The news reported yesterday, 12.5 for upper bowl midsection, if they're available. But I've been so many times, I don't want to miss the commercials.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to miss the commercials. All right,
But-
so what did we say that date was? That's
it is Friday, March 1st at 11:30 Eastern.
all right.
I'll include that date when I distribute the recording of this session and everyone's contact information again.
As always, thank you.
As always, absolutely.
All right,
Thank you.
Friday.
Everyone stay well. Have
Guys.
a great weekend
Have a great month.
and a great month. Exactly.